Okay, hello class and welcome to Lecture A, Part 3, pages 48 through 51. If you'll take a minute and turn into your books, I'd appreciate that to follow along with me. The first thing we're going to be talking about is licensure law and what does that mean according to the Kentucky State Regs for the Child Care Center. The first thing I want to say is I have put a PDF file on that is from Dr. Amy Hooten. She's with the CCNR. And the last time the child care regulations were upgraded in the legislation was in 2008. So there were some changes according to medication, and that just gives you an overview of what we're just talking about right here, which is what's on the screen. This is actually comes from the regs, so let's just begin talking about that. According to the regs, and I've highlighted the main parts that are in red. Excuse me, let's go back to the slide. Yeah. Okay. A child showing signs of illness or condition that may be communicable, which means everybody may catch it, shall not be admitted to the regular child care program. If a child becomes ill while at the child care center, the child shall be placed in a supervised area, isolated from the rest of the children. The parent shall be contacted immediately, and arrangement shall be made to remove the child from the child care center as soon as practicable. And that word practical can mean a lot of different things. Okay? So if we have a child who has diarrhea, we have a child who is running a temperature, then the parent says, well, I'm sorry, and they will say this to you, I'm sorry, but I pay you to take care of this child. By Kentucky licensure law, we cannot, because we have to assume if they're running a fever, if they're sick, if they're ill, then they are, and it says signs of an illness or condition that may be communicable. Okay, so we're protected by licensure law. They could say, well, I'm going to contact licensing on you. I'm sorry, but it's in our laws that we need to abide by that. So they're removed from the center for a certain length of time. The center makes the choice. Are they going to be out for 24 hours, symptom-free, or are they going to be out 36 hours, 48 hours? The center actually makes that decision in their handbook, and they have to follow what their handbook says. Okay, so the child goes home. They go to the doctor. They are given a prescription medication. Well, we understand the difference between, let's read number 4. Prescription and non-prescription medication shall be administered to a child in care. Prescription means when a child goes to the doctor, a medical doctor actually gives a prescription. They write it out. It's sent to the pharmacy. The pharmacy fills that prescription, puts a label on the prescription, gives the directions that the doctor has said, the dosage, everything, and the name of that person that it's prescribed to on the bottle. A non-prescription medication is something like Benadryl, Tylenol, NyQuil, whatever, that you can buy over the counter. It does not have a prescription label on it. A doctor has not said whether or not this is good for this person or not. It's based upon a person's own decision or guardian. Okay, so we've got prescription and non-prescription. Let's talk about prescription. When a prescription medication comes into your center, first of all, it has to have the label on it with the child's name. All right, and it has to have the dosage and the doctor and everything else. And it tells you that down here in number 6, where it says Medication, including refrigerated medication, shall be stored in a separate and locked place out of the reach of children, kept in the original bottle and properly labeled. So the medication has to stay in the original bottle. You can't take Johnny's Augmentin and say, I'm going to pour it into another container so we'll have one at home and one at the daycare. It cannot be like that. It has to stay in its original bottle, properly labeled, okay? Now, a non-prescription with like Tylenol, it'll say children under 2 shouldn't take this without the consent of a doctor. In that case, a doctor's note has to accompany that non-prescription medication in order for you to give it. And that's so because you have to follow. See, it says according to the directions or the instructions on the medication label. So if you don't follow those directions and you give it to that child, and that child becomes sick and ends up in the hospital and dies, then that's negligence on your part. So you don't ever want to be a part of that. Okay? So if a parent says, well, I'm telling you to do it, you say, I'm sorry, I can't because of the directions and instructions on the medication label. The doctor must give that. Okay? Licensing will cite you for that because that's what the regs say. Number 5 says the Child Care Center shall keep a written record of the administration of medication. So when that prescription or that non-prescription comes in, they sign a piece of paper telling you when to give it, how to give it. Well, you've got to sign another piece of paper giving when you did it. You've got to have the time of each dosage, the date, the amount, the name of the staff giving the medication, the name of the child, and the name of the medication itself. Okay, now it seems redundant, but the thing about it is you're wanting to protect yourself, just like a nurse would in a hospital or a doctor would in a hospital. This is serious business, okay? Number 6 we talked a little bit about, but there's some things in number 6 I still want to talk about. Medication, including refrigerated medication, because some has to be refrigerated, especially antibiotics, shall be stored in a separate, I want you to circle separate, and locked place. That's another one. Out of the reach of children. Okay, so let's talk about this. Separate, depending on your licensing specialist when they come in, they will say, okay, that's in a separate box, or they want every medication in a separate plastic bag away from others, and all of them locked in one. Out of the reach of children, all of those bottles are in their original container and they're properly labeled. Now, properly labeled means a parent can't just write their name on it. It means that the prescriptions have the original label, and it also means that the non-prescription, you can just write their name on it, okay? Number 7, medication shall not be given to a child if the expiration date on the bottle has passed. Now, sometimes, I kid you not, this has happened to me as a director, parents will come in, they'll say, well, I went on and they're on an antibiotic. And you get to looking at the antibiotic, and it's an antibiotic that was given to their brother or their sister 3 months ago. Well, first of all, it doesn't have their name on it, the child's name, so it's not properly labeled. Okay, and you cannot administer that medication to the child because it does not have their name on it, even though it's her brother. And or number 2, it was an antibiotic from a year ago, and the expiration date has expired. You cannot do that. This is licensure law. You need to take them to the law and tell them this is what it is. I can't do it. Sorry. Okay, so let's look at page 49. 49, when we go to give this medication, it gives you some hints on best practice here in administrating the medications to make it easier for children to take. Now, I do like, and I want to pull out this one where it says, never refer to medicine as candy. We don't want to give that illusion in their brain that when they take medicine, they're actually taking candy. Because what do they associate candy with? Easter egg hunts, or yummy, yummy, I sit over in the corner and can eat as much candy as I want. Well, if they eat as much medicine thinking it's candy as they want, they're going to overdose. We don't want that to happen, so we don't want to ever give that illusion. You have to think about your words and your pictures that go into children's brains. Now, part of your observation hour, 2 hours that you're doing this week, you are going to be teaching safety and kind of problem solving. And I have asked you to pick out a book about dealing with chronic illnesses, because you are going to have kids in your classroom that may have cancer, that may have asthma, all these different types of things that they can get over, but children need to understand what's wrong with them. So your book gives you 3 little books that you can look up. One's called The Little Tree by Joyce C. Mills. Another's called Lana Takes Charge by Rocky Lane. And I Have Asthma by Jennifer Moore Malinos. And Lana Takes Charge is about a little kid with diabetes, their friends and their siblings. So all 3 of these books are really good about helping children understand what's wrong with Johnny when he has a diabetic attack, or his sugar is too high, or his sugar is too low. And it helps them understand to help you take care of him, because they will start recognizing little Johnny's signs too. It's very interesting to watch children begin to become the caregivers in these types of situations. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, there are 5 different things that you, on page 49, that you could do in your observation. So ask your lead teacher if you could take 10 minutes during your observation to actually do this with the children. If they say no, that's fine. You can do it with your own children or your cousins or any little people that you have in your family, and then just record your observation with that, okay? Okay, now we also, in our classrooms, may have children with special needs, and these children are different from children who have chronic illnesses. A chronic illness is one that can be medicated with medication, and it can be healed. A person with a disability, that disability is going to be there for the rest of their life. And on page 51, you see a list of different disabilities, or special needs as we call it, that you may have in your classrooms. Now, under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which is called IDEA, children with special needs are often eligible for support services. In our situation of early childhood, and early childhood begins at 0 and it goes through age 5, we have 2 support services that we use. The first one starts at birth and it goes all the way to the child's 3rd birthday. And we call this one the Individual Family Service Plan, or we shorten it and call it the IFSP. And the IFSP falls under First Steps. First Steps is an intervention support service that comes in. They have occupational therapists, they have developmental interventionists, they have physical therapy, speech therapy, all these services that they can give children who show that they need these support services from 0 to their 3rd birthday. Now, once they turn 3 and their 3rd birthday comes, then the law picks up that they have to go into public preschool. They're eligible for that, and they go on what's called an individual educational plan, or what we refer to a lot of times as the IEP. And that will support them all the way through their 5th birthday when they go into kindergarten. Now, if a child is on an IFSP or an IEP before the age of 5, it does not show on their academic record. However, once they go on it after starting of kindergarten, then it does show on their academic record. Okay, that ends our lecture for week 5. I hope that you have found this very interesting and have learned a lot from it, and I will see you next week. Thank you for your patience, as I have been very tired during this lecture, and I know that you've probably seen that, and I just want to thank you for your patience. Have a great week.